Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool. And what I've got here is the CIVIVI Teton Tickler. Don't think about that too hard. It is a fixed blade knife, and I believe the most expensive CIVIVI knife. Now, it is a fixed blade, and I always love it when I get to use fixed blade knives. I usually carry, and most of my use is in folding knives, but the fixed blade knife has just got a special place in my heart, and I've started to really like some of the more elegant ones, not necessarily full customs, but just more artistic flair than the traditional survival knives that I've had forever. Anyway, this has a G10 handle, black G10 handle with nickel silver flush pins. If you look at those, just polished beautifully. That is the only advertising on the knife, is that C at the back, the CIVIVI logo. There is not a single thing anywhere else. This came out of the box about as sharp as any knife I have ever held. It shocked me. It has a D2 steel blade, flat grind, hardness of about 60. Slight swedge there, but very thick up here. It doesn't have kind of that traditional thin spine, although I wouldn't be batoning wood with this thing. The Teton Tickler, well, there's also the Arkansas toothpick and, of course, the Bowie knife. Some people would say, well, what about coming from China? It is a Chinese-made knife, and yeah, that's true, except China also had about a 2,000-year head start building cutlery compared to America. So there is that. And, you know, a lot of the Asian cutlery is desired around the world. And as far as fighting knives, you know, it's part of the culture. You know, we have Bowie knives. We've got, you know, the sandbar fight. We've got the K-bar knife, you know, military knives. But the culture is not wrapped up in the blade the way it is in many Asian cultures. So there's that. It is I would consider it a bushcraft knife, a little sharp on the point, but the design, the handle size, leather sheath, you could certainly use it for that. It does have, let me show you the sharpness here. Well, what happened was I had another knife I was opening, and it was kind of wrapped in plastic. And so I thought, well, I'll just carefully cut the plastic, but this just went through the plastic like butter. And at first it was like, what just happened? And literally, did you see how that just slides right through? Even just a slight push on the plastic and the blade just glides. So I, of course, got some paper to see. And I've been doing this for a while, playing with it. But still, you know, knives should be literally shaving sharp, which would be great. But, I mean, that is crazy. Just wild. Anyway, it is a kind of a, like I said, a clip point. There are lots of different shapes and styles. This is one of my favorites here. This is a Volcano from Falkneven. This has been in a few videos. It is an African hunting knife. Just gorgeous. But a little on the pricey side, but it's not a custom. Others, you know, I'm used to survival knives like this, like the, this one is the S1X survival knife. If I want to add a little flair to that same form, this one is the S1 Pro, so you can see how it's kind of like a fancier survival knife, if you will. I also like leather sheaths. I'm going back to leather a lot of times where I can, and the simple reason is I just kind of miss it. There was something, you know, I grew up with leather sheaths, and just having a good leather sheath is more kind of interesting to me, has a little bit better feel. Not as necessarily as hygienic, but compared to, you know, sort of these tactical Kydex or plastic sheaths, there are all kinds of them. Although I do prefer plastic now in one area over wood stocks, but I've started to really like going back to leather sheaths. So I was happy to see that. But anyway, just take a look at that thing. It does have a greater slope than most knives because that gives it, you know, some style, a little bit more elegance. However, if you look at the main part of the handle, it does still line up with the tip, with that drop there. So it isn't like it's bent here. And you know, if you were thrusting with the knife, you're still going to get a direct line of force. But anyway, so this is the Teton Tickler. It actually is the first time I'd ever seen, you know, one of the really fancy CIVIVI knives in person. The weight on this thing is about 9.5 ounces. So it's got heft. The balance point, if you look, is back here because this is such a dense handle, which is kind of interesting. So it does fall back into your hand. When you usually get up into a large blade, it obviously falls forward. But this one, the density is back here, and you really feel it. It snugs up in the hand quite well. Satin finish on the blade. The blade's length is about 5.5 inches, a little under 5.5 inches. The width of this, the blade thickness, I should say, is about 0.18 inches at its thickest point, 4.5 millimeters. And the overall length of this thing is a little bit over 10 inches. Gives you some idea of the size. Anyway, I'll put a link to CIVIVI's site if you're interested in looking at something like this closer. But for a little over $200 knife, I'm impressed. You know, Benchmade, obviously, $200 seems to be about their starting point for anything, and then they go up from there. Falcon Evens, you can get into them at the $200 price point, but not with the some of the elegance of this. Anyway, there it is, the CIVIVI Teton Tickler, and I'm looking forward to getting out in the woods with this guy. It's got some historical flair. I do like that. You know, almost a Bowie-esque. One of the Bowies. There are many. But anyway, with that, Doc out.